Nice, beautiful humans. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to my good man John. Good to see you, brother.
Thanks, Toby. Nice to be here, man. Nice to be here. This inaugural episode here as we explore the new paradigm of business.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So for all of you, John, we've met now many years ago, man. First, when we were both still working in the tech space and doing some Web3 type things, and yeah, it's been a really beautiful journey. Then at some point we started having our breakfast meetups with other beautiful business owners in our like Danish design furniture outlet. And then from there, lockdown happened, and yeah, we were taking all these ideas of like how can we actually really build connected spaces for entrepreneurs to really support one another in their journeys of creating new paradigm businesses online. And yeah, so that's really where we want to use this hour today with all of you to explore like what does the new paradigm of business look like. Gonna share a bit about where's John's drive for this new paradigm coming from, where's my drive coming from, and then we'll speak a bit about connected impact, like what is it that we are creating and what we are seeing, like what comes forth on how business is going to be done going forward, much more heart connected. So man, I'd love for you to share like where's your drive coming from? Like what is your story of origin being this now amazing marketer? Like but where did you start, brother?
Where did it start? Well, I mean, if I had to think back to like when was the first time I realized that I was a player in this game, I wasn't just a spectator. And I remember I just moved to Johannesburg. I'd fallen into my first business by quite by coincidence. I'd met a girl, and she said, we need to move to Johannesburg. And I just finished studying. I didn't go the conventional path of studying. Even from a young age, I was kind of a troublemaker. Smoked a lot of weed, cheated on my exams, didn't really finish high school. But so I was going to study psychology. Didn't end up studying psychology because I didn't finish high school, and got into this computer stuff. I thought, hey, this is really cool. And started studying. I did my MCSE, which is like the certification de jour in the late 90s. And within 12 months, I'd actually got my first job teaching all this stuff back. And suddenly I was like, whoa, hang about. This whole narrative of you got to go to school, you got to get good grades, you got to go to university so that you can get a good job. And I was like, I'm suddenly in a cool job, like years ahead of all my friends. And I was the dropout. Okay. And so this kind of started to shake the preconceptions. And I can remember I was walking um, in the shopping center, and I saw Kevin Trudeau's Mega Memory, right? This program course that you could buy this course and it would increase your memory. And I thought, holy shit, man, this game has upgrades, right? Us as humans, we don't just need to just accept the way things were given to us. You can actually level up. And I'd already studied some stuff around positive psychology, some stuff around. I'd already started doing kung fu, and it just occurred to me that there's if people say you only use 10% of your brain, like what's in the rest of it, right? What is in the rest of it? So I felt like there's been this ongoing journey of two paths. One is business, making money, marketing, tech, and the other one is going to be is spirituality, purpose, power. Like, what does it mean that we're alive in this place? What the fuck are we doing here? And over time, these two paradigms have started to synchronize. So questions I was asking myself in the business and the marketing space: who's your target customer? What is your unique value proposition? Um, what do you do for money? Has sort of to synchronize on the personal side and on the spiritual side with what is your purpose here? Who are you here to serve? And what are your unique gifts? So as we get to um, talking about what we're doing with connected impact, for me it's the culmination of this journey of synchronizing those two different worlds, of going, now we live in a space of unparalleled opportunity where we have so many tools available to us, so much information available to us, that to me it's not about like can you do it anymore? That's not a good enough question anymore. Can I do this? Right? We have so much power, so much opportunity available to us. It's more a question now of what do you do with that power? What do you do with that choice? And these are the questions, and these are the things that I've now started to focus on. To say, in my business and my marketing space, I've helped hundreds of businesses sell all kinds of things. When I start to ask myself the question about who do I want to help, who do I want to
Mm.
empower, if those tools are so powerful, how we use those tools starts to become a responsibility, but also a privilege, and it can also be fun. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm happy to dig into any of those strands, man. But I want to also, uh, you know, just give people a chance to talk about your origin story as well. So if there's
Mm.
anything, if there's anything you want to pull out of that story, and then I want to turn it around and I want to find out, from you, what is your, how did you get to here?
Yeah, I mean, I think what really like resonates for me in your story is this, basically finding your own path. And
Mm,
there's that sort of like societal narrative, like this is like all the good things, and then you say like a dropout, and it all comes with these like connotations of like, you didn't pull it through, sort of like in what's considered normal. But then on the other hand, you found your own path on the side, and I feel what resonates a lot for me, maybe you can speak about this a bit more, is this harmonizing of, on the one hand, being that like spiritual entity, and I know you have like really strong spiritual practices, but then on the other hand, you just fucking love money, and it's really beautiful. It's this sort of like quantum physics thing in a way, where I see like, yes, you connect the wave of like, this is all the potentials, but then you also have the capacity to basically collapse it into a particle. And that's sort of where I see, let's say, the old paradigm of business is like very much kind of like on the ground, when things have been observed like long enough, and then it basically, the quantum field has collapsed into like a thing. While then on the other hand is, and you can get stuck there. And I mean, yeah, you're basically like in the world of money, but then on the other hand, there's like the spiritual domain, where it seems like lots of people are, yeah, wanting to be spiritual, but then kind of dirt poor. And so I think what resonates and what I admire about you is that merging these two, where on the one hand, yes, you have all these spiritual capacities, and yeah, man, I just want to be fucking wealthy, and that's okay as well.
yeah, man. I mean, you're talking about a lot of my favorite things there, and a lot of things that I was gonna let my cat out, and my cat is black and white, so that's kind of sets us off on this journey of yin and yang, right? Where the symbol seems to be like the roadmap to understanding life on this plane, right? I used to think, oh man, bad shit happened to me. I left school, cheated in my exam. I didn't finish high school, smoked a lot of weed, right? But at the same time, that also put me on a path of shortcutting a whole lot of bullshit in
Mm-hmm.
university and taking me straight to a career which I actually love,
Mm-hmm.
right? So was that experience good or bad? Right. So here's the thing. So the experience itself, I begin to understand, is that the experience itself wasn't good or bad. The experience was just the experience, right? The
Yeah.
atoms involved in that experience gave absolutely zero shits about my emotional state, right? It's just a thing that happened. But our experience labels this positive and negative. Now, when you collapse the positive and negative and synthesize them into a new unified whole, light escapes, right? And this is like miniature enlightenment. You synthesize those two seemingly opposable dynamics, and we then break up to the next level. So it's positive, negative, synthesis, collapse the positive and negative waveforms, collapse the wave, light emerges, but the light allows us to then see the next level. And to me, that was the that synthesis and that constantly collapsing of the wave function. Firstly allows us to get to bigger and bigger waves, but that was it was a big trigger for me growing up in South Africa. The whole spiritual thing was a lot more mainstream. Way back there, we were talking, law of abundance, meditation, qigong, and all sorts of stuff. meditation and abundance, meditation things. But most of the people that taught me this stuff were dirt poor, and they didn't have their shit together, and it pissed me off. And I'm like, come on, man, you're teaching me how to be abundant. But what I saw, my label of that whole, a lot of those situations, was that the whole spiritual practice was an excuse not to deal with the heavy shit. To go, I'm angry, therefore I must go and meditate. Whereas what I've now started to understand is that spirituality is not about not having bad experiences, but about having sufficient power to be able to stand centered even in the face of these bad experiences. Is that when something bad happens to you, you've got somewhere to go, you've got access to power to be like, fuck this, you will not take me. And in fact, what we perceive as darkness is actually just the crest of the new wave. But it takes courage and power to go into the dark, and find the light, because that's where the good shit is. That's where my Kung Fu master says that divinity is waiting for you there in the things that you resist. Right, and it's those often those dark spots where the coolest treasures are. And to me, when I started leaning into that and going, okay, like this is actually, it's not bad stuff happening to me. I'm not a failure as a spiritual person if I'm having bad experiences, if I have a bad day, if I'm angry, if I'm depressed, if some days I fucking hate myself, right? But there's also a part of me that can watch myself doing that and going, aha, I see you doing that. Let me fold that into the experience. It's 1/2 of the experience, of this place. There's dark and light, but to the extent that we can embrace both of those things, that's where you get access. That you collapse the wave and then get access to the next level. And when you look at that, how I see business happening is every time you collapse the level, collapse the wave, you shine light in the dark. You enable it enables you to turn around and shine light for other people that are following. Right? And I think this is a beautiful model for business. I encountered some shit in my life. I walked into it. I dealt with it, often chaotically, inefficiently, messily. But it enables me to say, if you've been there, I've been there too. I don't have my whole life figured out, but I can show you this bit.
Yeah.
And for a certain specific portion of the planet are going to resonate with you. Right? They're going to be able to receive that light from you in a way that nobody else can really show them. In the same way as you were able to receive information. It somehow resonates, somehow knowledge lands or wisdom lands from certain teachers or gurus or people, even friends. And that's just that's just how the energy is moving around. That just seems to be how it works. And when you bring the business side of it into it, to me, this is what I understand marketing now to be, is making the connections between people that are looking for the next level and connecting them with the people that are uniquely positioned to connect them with the next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you as a business owner, you're not trying to convince anyone to do anything, but you're putting out an energy, putting out a resonance, putting out a message, putting out a Facebook ad. It's all the same thing. To say, if you are this type of person looking for the next level, then I've been there and potentially I can help you. And if you want help, then this is what help looks like, and this is what help costs, out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel what I'm really hearing from what you share is right now that business is about this ability to ground spiritual power into the 3D world in a way. And when you speak about these collapsing, and we talked about this a lot, that we're all on this journey upwards, and it's not about listening necessarily to the gurus that are like 100 steps ahead. It's like just the person is like 2 steps ahead, and then being able to serve the person that's 2 steps behind, and so we're all on this like ever growing trajectory. And I think this is also where the community aspect is so relevant, because you do want to build these connections with people that are a little bit in your lead, basically, and a little bit kind of in your slipstream. And so ultimately you're growing these heart-to-heart bonds with people that are on a similar journey. And maybe at some point you really start out like in the muck together, but at some point you will reach like the summit of success, basically. And it's not about necessarily switching out the humans that you're engaging with, but it's by witnessing one another in the more like emotional moments when it's like, man, like what is actually darkness? Because I think the darkness is often actually our emotional states, and realizing like, wow, I don't need to resist it, but I can integrate it. And if I'm feeling irritated about something, then what does that feeling tell me? Or if there's anger, like where do I feel infringed, either with the commitments I'm not making to myself, or where some outside circumstance infringes on like a value that I hold or a principle that's really dear to me. And so yeah, so I notice often when we're like in our like head, where kind of like the business visionary ideas come from, and unless, at least for me, unless they go inward and connect with my emotional self, then I feel really like, yeah, I want to make all these like retreats and all these things, but is it like, does it connect with my current reality, or is it like a dream and I find the dream exciting rather than actually the reality of what it would entail with all the like niggly annoying details that also come with that, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that too is like ideas move around a lot, right?
Yeah.
And information moves around. Um, I mean, I love funnels and diagrams and systems, right? When I was studying the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life specifically, it's like that's the ultimate funnel, right? You've got unmanifest reality at the top, manifest reality at the bottom, and then this system of spheres. As spiritual energy moves down, it goes through these different phases. So you go spirituality, or spirit energy, emotional energy, intellectual energy, physical.
Yeah.
And spirit is easy to move, and things can change. Spirit's emotional, intellectual. These things are fairly easy vibrations to move, and they move around a lot. But grounding them in the spiritual and in the physical takes you have to hold the same thought and hold the same vibration for a fairly consistent amount of time in order to change things in reality. And I think that and part of the challenge with that, when bringing it into reality, is what I call triggers, right? So you're cruising around, you're going about your day, something happens, and suddenly, because everyone can be a cool person on a good day. Anyone can be focused on a good day. Anyone can be disciplined on a good day, right? And then you don't get enough sleep. Somebody says something to you that brings up a past trauma or something like that, and suddenly, boom, we're not in a good space. I'm angry. I'm depressed. I'm pissed off. Um, and and I mean, the way I understand this happening, and it's still unpacking this, is that when you're relaxed and calm and centered, is it like when you're just coming out of a meditation, nervous system is relaxed, and the higher order brain functions are available. Your neocortex is engaged, and you're able to think with your whole brain. Happy days, things look easy. But the fight or flight response in the nervous system responds when it sees danger. But it often mistakes danger with different. So what
Yeah,
happens
interesting.
is you start to move, and you start to change. We say, okay, here's this goal that I want to go for. Here's this desired reality I want to go for, and you start moving towards that. Now, with all the communities, the technology, the opportunities we have, we can move pretty damn quickly. The laws of physics are pretty permissible right now. In fact, billion-dollar businesses are being created now faster than ever. So physically, it is possible. But emotionally, psychologically, physiologically, you start to move a little bit, and things start to change. The world starts to change. The nervous system goes, whoa, this is different. This is dangerous. For me, just registering a limited company again after many years was a big thing for me, because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I had 3 companies and ruined all of them. I stretched myself too far. One company collapsed, took the others with it, and I spent 12 months in, pretty much abject poverty. building myself back up. Right. So every time I want to go and reach for a new company, part of the lizard brain goes, "Oh, danger! It's going to happen again. You're going to fuck it all up again." It's not real, but it feels real. But as soon as that happens, it kicks me out of the relaxed state, and suddenly my body wants to go into fight or flight. Right? It goes danger, and suddenly what happens is cortisol elevates, and suddenly you're not thinking with the whole brain anymore. We're now thinking with very small parts of the brain. Neocortex gets turned off because that thing uses a lot of calories. Right? Brain uses more energy than just about any other organ. So when you go into fight or flight, it's one of the first things that gets shut down. Right? Is the neocortex, which is capable of all the more advanced thought functions. Right. So as soon as you get triggered, you suddenly don't have access to your most potent weapon. And it seems like a lot of the things that seem so obvious suddenly are not available to you. And that's kind of how I interpret it, like the darkness. Is it's almost like someone turns out the light, because you physically, fear compresses. It turns from you being able to see everything to being able to only see a very small. It's like looking at the world through a straw.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're feeling fear, you're by definition not seeing the whole picture. You're by definition not looking at the right thing, because you can't see everything. Like all of the most potent weapons are being shut down by the body because it's trying to protect you. Right? But
this is an interesting one, dude. Like with this whole thing around fear. Because I mean, when you say, you suddenly like have this really like narrow focus, because it can also, when I feel used strategically, it can become actually very powerful and like having ultimately laser focus. But I guess it's that question, like, are you, or at least that's the piece that I'm contemplating a moment. Am I unconsciously falling into fear and basically like unknowingly focusing in on a like tiny reality, or am I using that similar like fear response from my body, and when I like consciously say like, okay, I am going to the edge of my comfort zone in this specific area, it triggers the same response of my body, which is bringing all the energy to this like very, very narrow strip. And it's almost like, having an incandescent light bulb versus a laser, where like radiance goes everywhere with this incandescent bulb, and ultimately, like most of the energy you put in is transmitted as heat. While with a laser, it's all focus, and depending on the strength, cuts metal. And I think that's potentially where also working with our physiology can, in this new paradigm, be like, am I consciously engaging with like all the energy centers I have, or am I letting the outside world control what my physiology does with me?
And I think this is where we start to come into and something I've learned a lot from you is mastering your environment. Now, if you're running your business from a state of in the zone, relaxed, connected, powerful, you make decisions faster, things move faster. But if you're running your business from a stage of sleep deprived, over caffeinated, stressed out, that energy comes into that as well. So, and I think that's it's a real problem with the way the normal 9 to 5 job structure has been created. And I think it's been very interesting to see how COVID has kind of taken that whole thing and shaken it upside down, where suddenly the whole world has gone, actually work from home is not such a bad thing. And it's been a massive liberation from these synthetic environments, where suddenly us as humans have a lot more agency over how we structure our environment. I think companies are going to have a lot big problem trying to put that genie back in the box. To say no, you can't work from home, you can't structure the environment like that anymore. That doesn't work. It's not efficient. I think a lot of those bullshit stories have been removed. But I think how we remove like negative distractions, how you're focusing that energy, I think is going to be a big opportunity and big challenge for us right now is to say what are you focusing your energy on? Because if what you focus on becomes real, right, and now more so than ever, structuring, and it comes down to what does your daily routines look like? What are your how often are you checking in with what you're actually about, what your highest purpose is? And I think there's these two things in terms of the value system thing we're talking about. One is certain times that laser focus is super important.
And I think your microphone is a little funny right now.
Testing. 1, 2, testing.
Yeah, it's very griggly.
Oh dang! All right, well I'll let you. How's that?
Still the same.
How's that?
Still similar.
Okay, man. Well, you talk about your origin story. I'll get another headset.
Right. I'll give it a moment then. Yeah. I think the interesting part that we arrived here, and I think where it ties in quite nicely, is sort of like structuring environments and how we work. Because I remember when I was at the end of my tech career, basically, and we were looking a lot at these blockchain environments and how do we basically create new structures on the internet, and we're looking a lot at lifetime or life cycle of companies, like how long are they around, and it's been just so exciting to see like there's the average lifetime of a company has just been dropping, and there's more and more like entrepreneurship. And I think there's this whole piece what we've now been busy seeing with COVID of people working from home plays into this of just having a lot more agency of like what is it that you actually want to do. And yeah, what comes through for me is that also like with entrepreneurship it's a very specific personality type, and when I look at who entrepreneurs are in many ways, it's often traumatized individuals. And I think really quite in contrast to you, John, I mean, I went to uni for about 10 years. I got 4 different degrees from unis in Germany and Scandinavia and in the States. And then, yeah, I was really fascinated by that world of like academia, like how can I become more? And did first engineering and then went into design because I realized like, yeah, cool, I like building structures, but why do I build these structures? Like what's ultimately the human need that drives it? And so moving into that whole space around design thinking and really understanding what are customer needs, where at the time it was often around like very, very specific problems. But now what I've been seeing more recently is like ultimately the fundamental underlying customer need is around connection and community. And I mean, for me, I think really my sort of like awakening into like, dude, yeah, you will need to like do your own thing is after uni, I got a job as a marketing manager for entrepreneurial accelerator at a university. And it was just like, man, I fucking love what these people are doing, and then the thinking like, man, I want to work like in a startup, and so I then became like employee number 1 of a translation startup, and just felt like, wow, that level of freedom and that level of agency and that level of like, man, this is what I feel is right and I'm gonna do this. Then in the universal context, man, I felt like, dude, I fucking like I can run this show better than the person who's running it. And I felt so constrained and there was so much bureaucracy. And then moving into the startup world, I felt like on the other hand, almost like, man, there's no structure. Like what are we supposed to do? And the kind of like maneuvering between these 2 spaces. And what I then saw in the startup world was that was a lot of talk around psychological safety. Are you able to bring everything that you are to the company? And so I then started, when I was running the business team, I started these check-ins of like, hey, how are you feeling? You know, like what's going on in your world? Like what is the win? So that it brought out all these more personal things so that we could actually recognize each other as humans rather than just like, yes, you do the social media marketing, you write all the copy, you do the sales. And that I feel was like so nourishing for what was going on within that company. I mean, at the same time, you know, I had 2 kids. My relationship was falling apart, and it was just like, man, you know, there's like all these areas where it felt like one area of my life is going up, then the other one is kind of like collapsing. And I realized I had all these issues around like how I, throughout university, was using porn to kind of like sedate and check out from life. While now, when I look back, it's like, man, my body was like fucking small. It was this ability of ground, stop being all heady, what's actually going on, sort of like in the here and now. And I also recognized that ultimately it was never really porn that I was addicted to, but it was that I wasn't aware like who I was. And so recognizing that sort of in my like early childhood, you know, there's been lots of like traumatic events that never felt like were traumatic because it just was like, okay, it's the only thing I ever knew, you know. But I think this is really the big thing for me, where I'm seeing that entrepreneurs, they often have experienced like a lot of adversity early on in life, and then I think that there's 2 paths. You know, on the one hand is the path of like just falling into addiction and, you know, using all these different substances to basically numb out, or the other path is the path towards like spiritual growth, personal growth. And I, for myself, see that building a company, building basically an entity that holds a certain frame, is such a beautiful vehicle for, as my dad would always say, you know, turning shit to gold. And that's also where I'm seeing in this new paradigm, you know, connected with this codependency thing, where I see codependency is like, okay, I move my energy to everybody else, you know, like, okay, some people I admire, some people I blame, some people I judge, some people I put on a pedestal. But it's ultimately, once I kind of like recollect this energy and internalize and look like, man, like what's actually going on for me? Like, what are these like inner conflicts that I'm holding? Then there is this level of flow, that level of like, okay, man, I'm connected to my intuition. And it's really where, for me, I'm beginning to see more and more like, wow, can we create just a bit more space to move from inspired action rather than from that sort of like, this is the to-do list and this needs to happen like that, and being more like, yeah, what does the moment ask of me right now? And so having business as a expression of like our higher spiritual self in a way.
Yeah, amazing. There's so many things I want to dig into there. I mean, the one is, I think, you know, one of the catalysts is that, you know, the moment you started caring about the humans
Absolutely, man.
in your organization, that kind of set something on fire for you. And you know, I think that is definitely, you know, something I've resonated with as well. Is that it's like you know, all the tech and all that stuff is all good and well, but unless it's in service of some humans,
Yeah.
it's you know, that's what makes a startup great. That's what makes a good, you know, that's ultimately what a successful business does, is creates value for humans. And yeah, and actually, I mean, you know, that you know, you touched on the subject of porn, and I think that's one of those things that it's like, you know, it's like the light side and the dark side of the internet, or of choice generally, is that suddenly, you know, you have ultimate agency over what kind of stimulation you know, we can connect to our being and our organism. And you know, you can literally have anything you want right now. You know, and you know, it's on us to choose, and it's not always the easy thing to do. You know, the easy thing, I mean, you know, there's a large part of me every day that just wants to do drugs and watch porn. I'm like, every day. And I'm going, okay, is that all I want to do? Is that is that what I want to do? And I've been there, and it's it's still a struggle, but I think that's you can either take that up to the next level and allow that to be a gateway to a deeper desire. And I think we're talking about how um, most entrepreneurs have had some kind of early life trauma.
I think that's why entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs, because they don't want to live in the context that the world offers right now. But it's like, man, I gotta create my own thing, because what was offered was just creating all these like unpleasant sensations.
Yeah, I want to make my own, take my own shit. And I think it goes one way or the other. You either pressure is pressure, but you either crumple and go, yeah, I'm gonna pursue the path of more effective sedation. I'm gonna make it stop hurting so much by shutting stuff off, or I'm gonna make it stop hurting so much by building a new thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is also where like our connected impact space really comes in, and because what I noticed, being on this whole journey of like addiction to like porn, codependency, whatever, it's ultimately, dude, like there were so many secrets, like it was like, oh, I can't tell my partner that ultimately what I wanted was like just deeper intimacy.
Yeah.
But then there's like all these other things that basically these like going through the recovery space, it's like you're only as sick as your secrets. And the moment you are able to become more transparent, and you're no longer kind of struggling on your own, but you're in a community of other people that do the same thing. And I think this was the thing for me, I mean, I was in academia. It was all like well and good, I wrote like tons of papers and presented my work, and it felt in a way like, yeah, okay, that I'm creating something for the world. But what was I really creating? I was creating all these like conceptual ideas that didn't really have any like real impact on anyone, other than like the audience that I presented my research to. And it's like, okay, cool. Nice. Now what else could we research? It's very much sort of this intellectual masturbation almost, And then when I was being in the tech jobs or like in the marketing jobs, I was like, man, actually, this is misaligned. I want to do my own thing, but I at the time didn't feel I had the courage to actually do it. And so I felt like, oh, I need to be in some other person's structure that creates that safety, that gives me a monthly pay slip and blah, 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 so that I kind of feel safe. But my soul was like, man, I fucking despise what I'm experiencing here. And then so it found all these like nice ways to sabotage, to ultimately, launch me onto the quest that I'm on now. Where it's like, how can we together as a group of entrepreneurs, build companies that are really coming from the heart rather than from some sort of external entity.
Yeah. I think that's that whole what you just said right now. You're only as sick as your secrets.
Yeah.
Is that like as we come into connected impact and what we were doing there. I mean, the things that like on our collective journeys, this we found once we started sharing, like this is what's actually going on for me. This is what's actually inside me. I'm also scared sometimes. I'm also alone, so I'm feeling alone, right? I want to do this together. And once you start sharing, you find out that those feelings are often they're universal. That there's loads of other people out there that are experiencing the same thing, that want the same thing. They want to create an impact. That want to be, want to help people, but also want to live an abundant life, but also want to be a good person. Right, and explore consciousness and ultimately contribute, because I think there's one level which is about, okay, I want to stop myself, I want to stop hurting, right, and get to a level, and then it's like, okay, now I've got my like I'm okay now. The next level of growth is like, okay, how do we stop other people from hurting? And once I've accessed my own pleasure, how do we start helping other people to do the same? And you can only get to that point of helping others once you got your own shit sorted out. Now, of course, there are levels to this game. You don't have to have everything sorted out to get started, right? But that does seem to be the end game of like, what does successful business do? It helps other people. So to the extent that we can create a community where, like, hey man, let's go through this journey together, because what you were talking about with the the nervous system, right,
Mm.
is that as an entrepreneur by yourself, like, entrepreneurs generally are very lonely. Um, uh, Friends, family generally don't really get them, right? Like, why are you going out on your own? It's so risky. If you have some kind of spiritual practice as well, and you want to fuse the two, it's an even smaller set of people.
Mm.
All right. But what we found when we started connecting the people together is that when even though it's a very small subset of people, once you start connecting those people together, they're everywhere. There are literally millions. That's my belief, is that there are, and there's more and more every time. Um, and that should is for me. What I want is a community where that growth is the normal, right? A place to celebrate the wins, and to be able to ask for help from other people that are on the same path.
Mm.
And so that you grow together, and that nervous system kick isn't so much when you have it down, but next week you're in a room for other people going, I've been there. Like, okay, it's not just me. I'm not an abject failure. I'm just on the journey like everybody else. Or when you're having a win, you're in a room where other people are also having a win. And some days it's like, like some days I've arrived at a mastermind and gone, crap, I doubt myself. And then someone gets a massive win, and you're like, whoa, you've been
Yeah, and
trying to
you
do
suddenly
that for
see like, wow,
ages.
these people can do it. Why not me? And it's definitely this thing of it kind of like levels the intensity. And I mean, that's the interesting piece where it comes back to trauma. Like when you have like a trauma personality, man. And I mean, you were talking earlier about your cat, Black and White.
Yeah.
It's the same for me. It's the extremes, man. I love feeling where are the edges. I'm not really finding a lot of pleasure in the middle, man. But I love like where are the limits? But that's the interesting piece that when we come together as a community, it does find a bit more of a middle ground, because you suddenly see, okay, this person has this experience, this person has that experience. And I think also this sort of like peer learning is a big one for me, where, because I mean, we spoke earlier about the spiritual plane and the ideas, and ideas are cheap and readily accessible. But are you having the stamina to actually ground the idea? Like, do you have the capacity to bring it in? And I think that is where, like, in our space, really, that accountability piece does a lot, where it's like, yes, it's easy to say at the end of a meeting, I'm going to build this new funnel. But then it's kind of making you feel out of integrity when you show up the week after and checking in, like, have you actually built the funnel? And you need to admit, like, no, actually haven't done it. Because then you can come up with like all the narratives of like, why not? But it's ultimately it's a binary decision. Have you done it? Have you stayed true to your integrity? And I think the other piece that I find really powerful when people come together, it's basically this principle of like interference from physics. When you, on the one hand, you have the waves that are effectively like out of sync, and it just like it levels it flat. But then when you have waves that are in sync, then you suddenly get like double the height of the peaks. And so you basically have double the energy. And then, you add another person that is on the same frequency, and another, and it just becomes sort of an exponential increase in accessible power. And I feel that is really, for me, where entrepreneurs coming together in their unique journeys is where it's at. Because I mean, ultimately, I'm realizing that and seeing it in you as well. The more we grow, like upwards in our success and contribution to the world, the more we need to like ground, and the more it means that we're going into experiencing like some childhood trauma, or we're finding another trigger, and so it. In a way, I think entrepreneurship is this like beautiful way of like cleansing who we are, and it's ultimately this ultimate journey towards realizing and really tapping into like, man, I'm worth it. Because when you build like £100,000 business, or £1 million, or 10 million, or whatever, it's never ever really about or I created that money by sort of like extracting, but it's really like that money has come from me giving a gift. That money has basically, it's a reflection of how much energy am I able to conduct, and how much of myself have I been able to give without losing myself. And I think that's sort of that big piece for me, where it's yeah, I mean, it's interesting to build a company quickly, but then it's also, am I building it sustainably? And I feel that's at the moment for me a really big topic of taking time and nurturing it, rather than and feeling like in the startup world, you need to have $1 billion valuation within 5 years. It's like, wow, how can I actually build something that nourishes me, in which I continuously show up in my integrity, and I invite others to show up in their integrity, and then together over time, it's not just business, but it's friendship, man. And I think that's really the big piece for me, where it's like, wow, we are learning to love each other along the way, rather than just transacting of, yes, thanks for that, I give you that service. It's like, wow, I'm really happy that you got married, and congratulations on the first child, or my condolences that someone passed away. That really ultimately deeply human domain.
Yeah, I think it's the business transaction in the context of the human experience, not instead of
Mm.
the experience. Um, and I mean, money is a big like area of fascination for me. Where I'm like, I want to make shitloads of money, but it's not. The money is not the object. The money is just how you keep score. The money
Mm.
is, for me, what really like juices me is when I see, someone in the mastermind, someone that I'm working with, and like the lights go on their eyes, and they're going, "Fuck yeah!" Like a
Yeah,
whole new
dude,
level
100%.
has just opened up for me. They're trying to go on a path. For me, it's like the business is a vehicle, and I want to. The only way I get to make money is help other people make more money, right? So if they're making less, if they're making more money than I'm charging them. This is a great transaction. Okay, so the money is just how you keep score, but the unit of value is how many entrepreneurs am I unleashing?
Mm.
You know, and to me, the metric is to 10x. If I'm delivering 10 times the value of what I'm charging, then it's almost my duty to make loads of money,
Absolutely,
right?
man.
And like that's the like the eye of the needle to go through of who are you serving? Who are you serving? And it's not everybody, because that's like trying to start a fire with a light bulb. You want to start a fire
Mm.
with a laser, right? We can concentrate that value, concentrate our energy, on specific groups of people, because those experiences that we've been through, those traumas, those healings, those formative experiences have all uniquely prepared us to be able to be a superpower for a very specific set of problems. And I see it so often in working with businesses, is that we try to dilute our power and say, I'll do anything for everyone.
Yeah.
Um, but when you start to, who's your target market? Anybody who blah, blah. No, your target market is only people that. And when you start to focus that, you start to be able to develop something that is powerful and juicy and desirable for a smaller group of people. When I say smaller group of people, I'm talking millions of people here, right? Because like 0.00001% of the planet is still millions of people. Okay. But when you start going into those smaller groups, suddenly you're able to deliver value in a much more focused and potent format, and which is much more satisfying to you and
Mm.
much more satisfying to the people that receive it. And that breaks that whole scarcity thing, because when you really step into who you are, there is no competition. No one can do what you do.
Absolutely.
And and that's the journey. To me, that's my model of business is that there's a certain group of people out there that are unique, that they're waiting for you to show up. They're not waiting for you to copy somebody. They're waiting for you to show up, for you to own your past and go, you know what, it's actually weaponized me to be able to solve a very unique set of problems for a very
Mm.
unique, or rather, even more specifically, it enables you to help a very specific set of people get to the next level. And when you start doing that, money is the inevitable consequence. Right? It's a symptom of that happening, and you don't need that many people, right? I mean, for in the coaching kind of consulting space, £5,000 a month you'll give a good life. 10,000 pounds or dollars a month, you're living a great life. Okay, and if you can help 10 people at £1,000 a month, that's it. You're done. You're not looking for millions of people. You're looking for 10 at a time.
Mm.
And that's to me, that's how you move from a job to a business. And that's the piece I'm really focused on, is those first moves that you get you going. It's that there's so much complexity and so much uncertainty, and I want to just smooth that out for people to say, what are the sequence of things. And I'm continually working to make that list of things smaller and smaller and simpler and simpler. Make some damn money. Then figure out the rest, because once you're sitting, you've got the financial game sorted out, you can then go look at the big picture. You can connect to that relaxed state a lot more easily when there's more than enough money coming in. And if you're doing that in a way that's uniquely serving people, it's even better. Because for me, that you said earlier about, I want to feel like I'm enough. One of the ways I know that I'm enough is I look at the people that I've helped. It's empirical evidence, and be like, okay, like I know I'm doing some good in the world, because look, it's not just an idea. I don't just feel it. I can see it as evidence, and that creates a feedback loop of in Atomic Habits. James Clear's got this amazing model that each habit, each action, is a deposited into your desired identity. And when you start stepping into that, a small step will get you going, but each initial step that you take to start building a life that is something that you created, not something that happened to you. It's an amazing space to be in.
That's important what you say there, with like things being created by you, because I feel ultimately as entrepreneurs, it's not going out and sort of like trying to like draw money from the world, but it's as people say in the tantra space, it's self-sourcing. Like, you are the reason why it's happening. It's ultimately like, have you reached far enough kind of like inside you and brought that thing that you really want to do, where it's not doing work that depletes me energetically just for the sake of money, but it's like, man, I get energized while I do it, and as a result, because I delivered with enthusiasm and with joy and with genuine love, then that's why resources are flowing back to me as well. So I feel that's, for me, one of these big distinctions between the old paradigm, where it was like, yeah, whatever, you need to do whatever in order to like make money, in order to like do all these other things, to really going inwards and saying like, man, what is the thing that I could do indefinitely, or that I would do without getting paid for? And I feel then, for me, there's also that component of, because we're speaking a lot about millions of people and basically now having like a global audience, and for me there is that real piece around that you only really have a business if you also like have a community as an asset of the business, because it's ultimately, you're offering a service and you're doing it for a unique group that you want to facilitate a transformation for. And so how I approach it in that sense is that I look at like, what is the transformation I want to create in my own life? Like, what's the thing that I'm selfishly driven to fucking figure it out? Because then, if people sort of like want my thing or not, it doesn't really matter to me, because I will be on this journey regardless. But since there is this like intense desire to learn and to understand it, it gives me that unique ability to then, give from that overflow to others, and sort of become this lighthouse of like, when I first started these breakfast meetups, I was like, man, I want to be around other men who do business in my city. And that's when I just basically said, okay, whatever. I have this friend who has the Danish design furniture outlet. I'll go buy some bagels and some coffee. Just put it out, like, who wants to come? And then, I mean, you were one of the like early adopters of this concept. And I was like, oh, cool. And now suddenly there's like all these other people that are on a similar journey, and that I'm serving, but I'm also really receiving a lot from the work that I've been doing. And so I feel that is for me that new paradigm where it's like, man, find a thing that really gives something back beyond the monetary, so that, as you were saying, monetary becomes that element to keep score. It's like, yeah, well done, mate. Congratulations. It's sort of like in university we got degrees, now in business you get an invoice paid.
Yeah. And I think, that because in this dimension, I mean, power is money, money is power, but it's not just like I want to build a big money house. I want to be like Elon Musk, to be like, the Ukraine, Russia's taken out the Ukraine's internet. Can we have some internet, please? It's like, yeah, okay, sure. Click, turned it back on. And I was like, oh yeah, I've got this project lying around. I've been building this global internet system. I just happen to have one lying around. We can plug you into it, no problem. Okay, you can't do that if you're living in poverty.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it gives us that agency to say, yeah, like I want to help. I want to help people. I want to help people in a way I wasn't helped when I was climbing the ladder. But the way I get those resources is not, you don't make money by helping people that don't have any. You help people that have money, you use that to build a business, and then you use the proceeds of that to turn around and build the ladder, build the lift to help the rest of the people get up.
And dude, I mean, what I'm seeing in terms of money, it's ultimately just a reflection of self-worth. Are you boundary enough to stand up for your principles and your integrity? And I mean, this quote from Keith Ferrazzi like always strikes me, where he says, like, poverty isn't the lack of money, poverty is the lack of relationships, and with relationships comes money. And maybe it's coming back to the very beginning of our conversations as well, when we're purely in the spiritual domain and we're using it like spirituality as a way to basically not really face what's going on in life, then I feel our energy is like way too much up here rather than actually sort of in our heart, which allows us to actually build relationships. And also means at times like, yeah, man, you gotta endure some pain. And it may mean at times that, you've been like really cruising at a good altitude, and then a person that you actually care about is not doing so well, and it means that you're dipping a little bit in order to kind of like meet them somewhere. But yeah, I feel that's for me the piece where it comes back to the community. It ultimately, you're showing up in service, and that I feel makes life inherently fulfilling, and being able to celebrate with others. And I think the important piece is being fucking celebrated when you have a win, and being seen in moments when you're really living in your fullest potential. Because I mean, I think also at times, we're mostly scared of our own power rather than of like our shortfalls. And at the same time being seen in moments, as you were saying earlier, when it's just not working. Like, why is it not working? I'm so fucking frustrated. And then somebody can tell you, like, dude, yeah, I've been there before. For me, this thing worked. And then you may go and try it, and it may do the trick. So, yeah, beautiful humans. I think under this video, there's been a button for the mastermind that we're running at Connected Impact. So if the new paradigm of entrepreneurship, of being more connected rather than being on a journey just by yourself, and really integrating these spiritual learnings into your business, and really having a business that is a vehicle for self-actualization rather than one that just wants to create finances, then invitation is here. Apply, have a conversation with John in more depth. My man, absolute pleasure to share this space with you.
Fantastic. Absolute pleasure, my man. And loving the journey. And man, this is just beginning. Our first inaugural crowdcast. And I remember when we first started the first mastermind, more than a year ago, we were like, whoa, we're going to create it as we go, and look how far we've come. Who knows where we're going to be 12 months from now. So
absolutely, yeah. So in the coming
journey,
weeks,
brother.
So for this series, it's really, we're going to speak with lots of six-figure spiritual entrepreneurs and people that have figured out like how to create funding and be in their spiritual self-expression. So every 2 weeks we'll have conversations. Next one is around money making with our wealth evangelist Anastasia Garali. So it's gonna be 2
Amazing.
weeks. Lots of love.
Good stuff. Thanks, everyone.
Good to see you.
Bye.